I would not be here without my friends, my family, God, and fishing. I feel incredibly honored to have gotten the opportunity to talk to Brent Homan of Graham, Texas. He is a wounded Army veteran and Purple Heart recipient turned professional bass fisherman. Not only are you going to get some awesome tips on how to catch bass on the water and hear a little bit of his story of how he got into fishing, but you're also going to learn his incredible story as a wounded soldier and the kind of grit and straight mental toughness that got him to where he is today. So check this out. You don't want to miss it. Well, thanks
All
for
right,
taking the
good.
time to jump on here and chat a little bit more about what you do. So, who are you? Where are you calling from? What's going on? Tell us what you do.
I am Brent Homan, and I am from Graham, Texas, and I fished the Bassmaster Opens as a pro.
What got you into that business?
What got me into that business was I started tournament fishing back in 2001, 2002, and then I just fished the local stuff as a team tournament, and then I fished a couple national trails that were individual trails, and I did pretty well. Finished second angular year points, and then that kind of leapfrogged me into the Bassmaster Opens.
Awesome. So, I'll be honest, I don't know anything about that world at all. I'm a saltwater fisherman.
Okay.
I see it on TV. I see the boats. They have all the cool video footage and stuff. I've tried to catch bass and I've caught like small ones before, but like, can you tell us about that world? About like what does it look like when you compete? Like how does it work? Just kind of the high level overview of what a Bassmaster Open is.
So Bassmaster Open is it's a combination of Bassmaster Elite Series pros, FLW Series pros, local anglers, and then guys that are traveling country trying to qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series. Because if you win one, you fish the Bassmaster Classic, and then if you finish in top 5 or 10 in points, you have the opportunity to be invited to fish the Bassmaster Elites. So you're fishing against the top level tier guys, and then you're fishing against your local pros that are signed up for that specific lake because it's in their backyard. And then there's guys like me where I don't really have a backyard advantage, except for at the Bassmaster Classic. If I win one, I'll have, it's an hour away from my house, so I'll be fishing in my backyard. But it looks like, you're anywhere from 200 to 290 boats for the tournament.
Wow.
And they're from Japan, Australia. They're from all over the world, including the U.S.
That's incredible. I think what I could relate it to is we do fishing derbies, salmon derbies out here. And it's like when we have a certain area that we fish, guys will come from outside the area. They don't necessarily know the territory, and then the
Right,
locals have the advantage naturally.
right.
I never thought about it from a bass perspective. I mean, that's like lakes worldwide. So,
Lakes and
so
rivers. Yeah.
do you translate your skill set? Is it the same technique on every lake, or do you
No,
study that lake?
I show up a week before the tournament starts. So I'll have 2 or 3 days of unofficial practice, and then official practice starts the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before the tournament starts on Thursday. So I'm from Texas. I'm a shallow water guy. I love shallow water. If there's grass or vegetation, I'm in it. I'm going to try to find the dirtiest water to go fish. But that's not always the case with these lakes that we go to. And we go to Lake Table Rock. That's a clear body water, unless you run up to the James, which I typically do, and that's an hour one-way run, wide open, just to go to dirty water because that's where I'm comfortable at. But I can drop shot, I can fish offshore, I can fish deep structure, ledge fishing. Nowadays you have to be well-rounded in pretty much every technique out there. Because you can't just focus on shallow. You have to have shallow, deep, mid-range, trees, grass, rock. You got to know how to fish them all. And to be able to make it to the next level, that's what you got to do.
So what do you do to get better? Do you just fish all the time?
Practice.
Yeah.
You fish different bodies of water. Like where I live, Possum Kingdom Lake is about 20 minutes from my boat, from my driveway. And that's a clear body of water. I mean, it's crystal clear. It's clear. But I can go an hour the opposite direction and be fishing a total grass lake. I mean, just hydrilla and pads, and that's how you catch them, is punching and flipping the grass. And then you can go to a lake that's just across the street from my house, and it's in between. It's a tea-stained water. It's got grass. It's got rock. It's got wood. It's got everything that you can practice. And then in my backyard, which I live on a private lake, it's crystal clear water too.
Hmm.
So it's just time on the water.
Yeah.
The luck factor at that level that we fish, there's no luck. You have to know what you're doing, the presentation, the seasonal patterns, where they're going to be in the morning, where they're going to be where they go when they get, let's say, 18 inches of water dropped out from under them overnight. Try to relocate those fish. You have to know what you're doing. It's not luck anymore. You have to know what you're doing.
I think that's kind of one of the beautiful things about fishing. It's like when we can control all the elements we can control, there's still the unknown and the stuff we can't control. And when it works, man, it's like the best feeling on the planet, right? Like it's an obsession. So that's kind of why I was excited to talk about you, like to you. I want to know your story. Like what got you into, like, how did you get to the level you're at now? What's your journey as it relates to?
So my fishing journey, I guess, started, I don't know, back when I was a kid. I started fishing, as the youngest I can remember is Father's Day weekend when I was 4. That was the first time we went to Minnesota as a family, up to Leech Lake. And we fished for northern pike, walleye, muskie, jumbo perch, yellow perch, rock bass. I didn't grow up bass fishing. My dad said, no, they're junk fish. They're too easy to catch. So we went fishing with fish that had teeth. So I did that all the way through high school. Last time I was at Leech Lake was when I was 18, right before I joined the military. I went up there for vacation, and then as soon as I got back, I went to basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia. And then I didn't do a lot of fishing. I did some here and there. And then I got stationed at Fort Hood in Texas, and everybody bass fishes in Texas. And I had a friend that fished semi-pro in California, and he got me into fishing. And once I started catching some bass, I was like, this is kind of fun, kind of addictive. So that's where it started, was at Fort Hood. And then I started fishing Fishers and Men Trail with my team partner. First one was Mike Garrett, and the second one was Chuck Guthrie. And me and Chuck, we fished 4 or 5 years together. And we fished Fishers and Men, and then we went from Fishers and Men to Bass Champs, which is the biggest team trail in Texas. You're looking at 250 to 300 boats per tournament for a one-day tournament, and a chance to win 20 grand. So we did that, and then I went from fishing Bass Champs to fishing the Paralyzed Veterans of America Tour, which is a national tour, and they go anywhere from Wisconsin to Maryland to Connecticut, Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas, Florida, Oklahoma, Alabama. I mean, they go everywhere. So I started fishing those, and that was the individual trail. I ended up winning a couple tournaments, won my first boat in 2010, which was awesome, on Lake Gunnersville in Alabama. I fished that PVA trail for the 2010 full time, and I ended up getting second in points. Missed going to the Bass Federation by, I think, 3 points, because first place went to the Bass Federation Championship automatically. And that kind of set the stage for me to make the leap to the Bassmaster Opens, because, I was so used to doing team trails where it wasn't one person decision, it was a team. So if, you had an idea, you talked it over with your team partner, and, if he liked it, you went. But if you didn't, you just had to write it out.
Yeah.
But that was the first year that I made my own decisions. I found my own fish. I had to do the work and the practice and fish multiple different bodies of water, from rivers to swamps to lakes to deep reservoirs to shallow reservoirs, to reservoirs where you can't use tungsten. Or lead. Couldn't use tungsten or lead. And it was just a unique experience, and it was a confidence builder to leapfrog me into the Bassmaster Opens after talking to some of the best Bassmaster, best bass guys out there on the tour. Which Kelly Jordan's one of my best friends. He's my mentor. He was like, "You're ready." He was like, "You can do it." So back in 2011, that's when I joined my first year.
Did you feel ready, or did you just go for it?
I just went with it. Most of the times your path to fishing the Bassmaster Opens is you do as a co-angler, just to go out there and learn and get a feel for how the tournament works. And, you learn from the pro by watching them fish and seeing how they adjust and how they, attack a body of water. I didn't do that. I just said, I'm just going to go in and do it as a pro and learn as I go. And it took a while. It took a while. First, your first tournament, you're fishing against Gary Klein and Boyd Duckett, and you're fishing against the top tier guys in the industry, and you're just like, wow, what am I doing here?
Right.
But, I'm not like that anymore. I've been doing it long enough, and they're just regular people like me, and most of them are, really good friends now.
So how long have you been in the pros?
So I've been fishing since 2011.
2011.
In between, I had 2 shoulder surgeries. Go figure. Fishermen have shoulder surgeries a lot. And then I took 2 years off when I had my youngest son that was born in 2017. So this is my first year back full time.
Gotcha.
I did a couple as a co-angler just to do it, but that's not my deal. That's just not any fun for me.
Yeah. So what do you love about fishing?
The tournaments or fishing?
Fishing.
Fishing.
Why do you love to fish enough to go pro?
I love the challenge of going out and find a fish that will bite my lure. It's the competition. It's the accomplishment of trying to figure them out, because we're really intelligent people, but bass, they're smart too. They're elusive, and you can't catch them every time. And I've been teaching that with my son. We'll go out there one day and just catch them. Catch them really good, and then the next 10 times we won't go out and catch hardly any of them. Mm-hmm. But I just love being outside. It's my safe place. It's where I can go, and it doesn't matter if they bite. I'm still going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy being out there and experiencing God's world, and just being with nature, and just fishing. It reminds me of being a kid, just going fishing, with a bobber and a worm, and it's just the simple things that I really I really enjoy doing.
What's your most favorite fishing memory?
Oh, there's a lot of them. I would say it's not even involves freshwater fishing. One, I'll give you a couple. So, Kelly Jordan, he likes to go saltwater fishing, and we had been going out of Port O'Connor. We'd go out to the Boudin rig, which is one of the last rigs out there. Like 90 miles, I think. Takes 3.5 hours to get out there. And I hooked into a giant AJ, 98-pound AJ, and he took me for a ride. I didn't catch that fish. He caught himself, and I just held on. So that was pretty special. I remember that pretty well because the fight and holding that thing and getting the picture ended up winning the tournament for the captain that year for the season for
That's
the
awesome.
big day.
How long did it take to land him?
Oh, I don't even know. An hour, maybe. At one point in time, it made one run, and I had the shoulder harness and the hip harness where the rod sat, and the shoulders harness hooked to the reel. And at one point, it made a run, and I just went with it. And I thought I was going over until my buddy Sean, who's like 6'6", 280, grabbed the back of my harness and held me back. Kept me in the boat.
That's crazy.
I didn't know who did it, but I remember saying, I don't know who grabbed me, but thank you, because I was going.
The fish literally would have caught you.
Yeah, I mean, I was going. It was quite a fight.
That's funny. Love it.
And then I would say my first double-digit bass was with Mark Pack on Lake Fork. I caught a 10-2, and then on a bladed jig, which I'm a really good bladed jig fisherman. That's what I like to do. It's what I like to throw. And then a week later, I caught a 10-4 at Lake Conroe.
Wow.
I caught 2 10s in a matter of 5 days.
That's awesome. So for a rookie bass fisherman, I have no idea what a bladed jig is. So can you please explain that to me?
I can actually probably get you one.
Yeah. Is it something you would recommend a novice use?
Yeah, because I mean it's bladed jig. It's just a jig, a jig head with a hook, and it's got a blade on the front, goes side to side, and makes a clicking noise. And then you put a trailer on it, and whatever your favorite trailer is. Like I got them pre-rigged in here already.
Nice.
And it's like a spinnerbait. You just throw it out there and
awesome.
Do another one. But you just throw it out there and retreat and bring it in. And when you feel some grass, it's a good grass bait. I mean, you can fish it anywhere around docks. It doesn't really like wood because it gets hung up. But it's more a vegetation docks kind of deal. You just throw it out there and reel it in. And then when the blade stops turning, stops vibrating, it's either a piece of fish it's either a piece of grass or it's a fish.
So what tip, would you give any specific tip for someone that's new? What tip would you give them to have success on the water if they were going out for their first time with a bladed jig?
I would, what I would tell them is what I've told a lot of my buddies that got into bladed jig fishing is you want to reel fast enough just to turn that blade. You don't want to reel super fast, but you want to reel fast enough, just enough to feel the blade moving. And then when it stops, either rip it through the grass or set the hook. You just throw it out there and retrieve it. I mean, it's pretty simple. You can feel the blade moving. I mean, it will vibrate the tip of your rod pretty good, and you'll know when it stops moving. It stops vibrating.
Awesome. I have to know, what is the mount behind you? Tell me this. Is there a story behind the mount?
That is the story. I was 16 years old up in Leech Lake, Minnesota. 6-pound test, and that is a northern pike. That is a toothy creature that was 18.5 pounds, and it took over an hour to bring in. It's
6-pound test. That's awesome.
It's big.
I love it.
Oh, that's what that is.
That's a big old fish.
Yeah. And so Yeah, I caught that with my dad um, when I was 16.
So your dad got you into fishing?
He did. I'm the youngest of three brothers, and I'm the only one that loves fishing. I could go out there all day and never catch anything and be perfectly fine. Some people just either, some people love it and some people
Not really.
go out there, and which
There's
is
two kinds of people that fish and people that don't.
yeah, yeah.
I love it. Well, if someone wants to follow your journey, where can they find you?
Twitter at Brent Homan. I'm on Facebook at Brent Homan Fishing. My Instagram is Brent Homan at Brent Homan Fishing. My YouTube is Blindside Bassin because I only have one eye and I have a blind side. And there's all kinds of articles on the internet about my story and my journey.
Do you mind sharing a little bit of it?
No, not at all. So if you can't tell, you might not be able to tell. I don't have a right eye. Have half a thumb. My whole right arm is rebuilt. I have a significant brain injury that I deal with every day, but it's a lot better than it was. So June 10th, 2007, I was on a patrol in my Bradley fighting vehicle. I was lead vehicle. I was Bradley commander, and I was infantry. And we got called out after being out all morning to go out and secure an engineer company that was filling in IED holes, of all things. So I got hit with an IED June 10th. It was night, and all I remember is, I remember everything. I got knocked out for about 30 seconds. I remember the flash, and then I remember slumping down into the turret because I had stood up with my handheld GPS because we didn't have GPS inside the Bradley because it wasn't working. I was behind my sniper glass, 4-inch thick sniper glass, and the shrapnel went right through it. And pretty much my right arm saved my neck from being severed by the shrapnel because it went in here. I was holding it like this next to my arm, next to my head, just crouched down behind the sniper glass, and it went in here and came out here. So it went up there and came out here. It was about that big piece of shrapnel, about that round. Totally took out my ulna, my ulna bone, shattered every bone in my wrist except for my scaphoid, which is on your thumb. But it had severed my thumb off to where it was just a piece of skin was holding it on. It was just dangling down here. My right eye, the shrapnel went through my cheek cavity underneath where my lens was sitting, my eye protection was sitting, missed front of my eye and severed my optic nerve because of the angle that it blasted from. It was shaped and angled, designed to kill the Bradley commander, tank commander, Humvee gunner, somebody that's up high in a vehicle. It was shaped like this. Most of them are just laid on the ground like this and just a mushroom cloud. This one was shaped and angled so the blast would go up towards the commanders. So yeah, I remember the medevac call. I remember climbing out of the turret to the back of the Bradley. And the only thing I was really worried about was I knew my thumb was hanging down, but I was worried about my eye. I kept asking if my eye was okay because I knew I couldn't see out of it. But it was just a little scratch on my cheek, just a little scratch, little trickle of blood. So they kept saying, "Yeah, it's okay. It's okay." So I got on the helicopter, went back, saw the doctor, made the phone call to my wife because I knew I was able to make a satellite call from the cache from being there a week prior and with one of my soldiers that was sick and had an injured soldier come in and make that same call that I had made. That a week later, I was making back to my family to let them know that I got hurt. So I went in emergency surgery. Doctor said they would be able to save my eye, but my thumb would probably be lost. And I didn't like that answer because I needed my thumb to be able to fish. And I just, for some reason, that's the only thing I think about. So yeah, that's pretty much the story. I told him I didn't like that, and well, he got it wrong. So I lost my eye 10 days later at BMC, and they just gambled with my thumb. They threw it on there, threw a big, about an 8-inch rod through my thumb into my radius, my radial bone, and just pretty much crossed their fingers. And if it grew back together, it grew back together. Fortunate enough, my skin and soft tissues grew back together and healed itself. So long story short, I didn't have any kids then. I now have 3 kids. I was officially retired in September of 09. 09 is my retirement day. So somebody with a brain injury, I can remember the number 9. So sorry, I use humor. You just never realize how big your nose is till you lose one eye. And it blocks your view. So extensive occupational therapy and physical therapy every day for 5 days, pretty much for 5 days, 5 days out of the week for 2 years. I went through therapy, and my mission in life was to prove the doctors wrong. They said I'd never move my wrist. I have limited mobility, but I have enough mobility to be as normal can be with my injuries. Said I'd never drive a car. It's just a lot of things they said I couldn't do. And I was focused on healing and used humor a lot to get through it. And I'm still healing. Traumatic brain injury is one of the hardest injuries to overcome. And 10 years ago, there's no way I could have this conversation. Couldn't hold the conversation. My brain would lock up and I would stutter and I couldn't find the right words. I still do that to this day, but it's a lot better. I'm able to function. So it's been a long road, and I've used my story to try to inspire other soldiers and anybody else that, needs to know that it gets better.
I want to thank you for sharing that. That's extremely powerful. And to see how far you've come with your goals, even just it's straight up mental toughness. What would you attribute that drive or that focus? I mean, essentially they told you it wasn't going to work out and you said, sorry, I don't accept that. And you did it. I mean, what got you through?
I guess I'm stubborn. My wife can tell you that, but I think everybody has a little bit of stubbornness and drive. You have a couple in when you get hurt. You can either, one, feel sorry for yourself and try to make everybody else feel sorry for you and live in your injuries and accept them for what that is. I wasn't willing to accept my injuries and have them define me. I wanted to define my recovery, and the injuries were not going to define who I was. I chose to live and enjoy, and there's times where I didn't know if I was going to be able to hold my kids. I didn't know. My arm was in a sling. I was having surgeries, seemed like every month, every 2 months. And, you know, we had our son in 2008, and I still remember, how am I going to hold this kid? I have one arm. I was still going through surgery and rehab, and it's just all those things. But you have to make a choice. Either choose to get better or choose to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, choose to live where you're at. And I didn't want to stay stagnant. I wanted to keep moving on. And, you know, I had other people that, you know, were there with me, and they encouraged me. I mean, I cannot be here without my friends, my family, God, and fishing. I mean, fishing is physically and mentally rehab for me. I mean, once I get outside those hospital walls, that's when progress really started to happen.
That's an incredible story. And I love what you said, that fishing was rehab for you. It has been for me too. In some of the hardest times in my life, I still had the best memories of my life when I was on the water. And
Right.
it's amazing what it can do for the soul.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you sharing your story.
I appreciate y'all wanting to do it, wanting to have me on. My thought now, you know, the more I share my story, maybe it will help somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, if I can help somebody that I don't know or I do know, you know, overcome a difficult situation or have a different perspective on what they're going through, then that's what I want to do. That's my goal.
Well, thank you. I will be respectful of your time, but I greatly appreciate you jumping on here. And we will share the heck out of your story because it's incredible. So when's your next event? When can we watch? What's the next event?
You can watch the weigh-ins, and you can watch Bass Track on Bassmaster.com. My next tournament is at Rayburn in September.
Okay.
If I told you a date, I'd lie, because
Okay.
I don't know the date right now. I
We
think
can Google it.
it's early September. The fishing industry is a very, very small, tight niche industry, as you know, on the saltwater side.
Well, I just reached out to you for 2 seconds and here we are talking. Like, I'm super grateful for you even accepting the interview. It's really awesome to learn other people's stories and the journey they have as fishermen. And yes, we are a community, and that's what I love about this sport. I don't care what kind of fish you catch. I don't care what language you speak. Once you try to talk about fishing, we can communicate. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing.
Yep.
And
I have a friend from Japan, and he met him 3 or 4 years ago fishing the Bassmaster Opens through one of my co-anglers that used to travel with me. He got partnered up with Masa, and they hit it off. And ever since then, he comes and hangs out with us, and it's just fishing. I mean, he understands fishing, and that's the universal language across the world if you know how to fish.
Yep. Well, again, I really appreciate your time, and we are going to follow the heck out of your journey. And I will make sure to link all of your links in the comments underneath this video, as well as find that next tournament you're going to be in. I'll find the link for that too. So
yes,
thank
I'm
you so much.
Bassmaster.com, and I appreciate it. Thank you.